All right, dear. Okay, we are starting. So, please, the uterine cycle. The cycle exactly follows the ovarian cycle, and it exactly has the same duration. Length of the cycle is just the same. It is exactly a reflection. It is just following the ovarian cycle. Now, what should be the length of the cycle? This is the first. Yeah, average is 28 days. Now, what do you mean by this average? This is another question. How do you take this average? Okay. See, the cycle is quite variable in different populations, in different females. Even the female in the same population, even the females of same genetics, having same family, sisters, mother and daughter. Okay, well, there could be differences. Now, between 25 days and 35 days, cycle can vary. Okay, according to some sources, as short as 20 days, 21 days, up to 35 days. Other book says that between 25 and 35 days, there could be variation. This is the total of the cycle, total length. I'm talking about both ovarian cycle, okay, because it's the same thing. Whether I say ovarian or I say menstrual cycle or I mention the word uterine cycle, it's just the same thing. Okay, this is first point. Yes, the average, the common average which is taken is 28 days. You're right. In case of normal females, it is not the exact cycle that she will follow every month. Okay, it is not a machine that exactly, absolutely 28 days. It's not possible. Okay. Well, 28-day cycle, 28-day cycle, then mumkin 29-day cycle, then 28, then 30-day cycle, then 29, then 28, 28, 29, 30, 28. Yani, there is some variation which is coming. It's not exactly all the cycles which are following 28 days. Okay, but the average of most of the cycles will come to 28. That is one point. Okay, actually, normal females who have the regular cycles, we say they are having regular cycles. What do you mean by regular cycles? They still have a variation of up to, from 4 days to 8 days they have the variation. And they are having 28 days, 29 days, 30 days, 28 days, then 32 days, 33 days, then 28, then 29, then 28. Yani it keeps on changing. But the shortest cycle and the longest cycle, the shortest and the longest, will have a difference between like 4 days and 8 days. Okay, that is called the regular cycle. Okay, some differences will be there. It's not a machine that 28, 28, 28, 28, 28 and it goes, or 29, 29, 29, 29 and like this. No. Okay, we are humans. There are physiological, biological variations. Okay, keep it in mind. This is the meaning of regular. A regular cycle woman will have a variation of from 4 to up to 8 days, from 4 to 8 days. Less than 4 day variation is very, very uncommon, unusual, that a female has 28, 29, 28, 29, 28, 28, 28, 29, 28, 28, 29, 28, 28. No, okay. There has to be 30 days or 31 days or 34 days like this sometime, few cycles. So shortest and longest time difference you have to see. If it is less than 4 days difference between the short and long cycle, it is very, very unusual thing. Okay, normally from 4 days to 8 days it's mumkin, it's a regular cycle. Okay, she is having a normal regular pattern. This is the meaning of the word regular. Okay, now moderately regular between 8 and 28 days. Okay, the women can have a variation of 8 and 28 days also throughout their life cycle, the shortest and longest, and still it is called moderately regular. Okay, very regular means from 4 days to 8 days. Moderately regular means from 8 days up to 20 days. Okay, and from 20 days, 21 days or more, then you will call it irregular cycle. So if you are saying, oh, this woman is having an irregular pattern of cycles, then you should know the meaning of the word. What are you trying to say? It means what will be the variation between her shortest cycle and the longest cycle? 21 or more than 21 days. Okay, that figure should be kept in mind. Am I clear about that? Okay, so now you understand the meaning of, yes, okay. Unusual variation, less than 4 days between the Shortest and the longest cycle. Regular cycles, okay? Yeah, very regular means from 4 days to 8 days, or more than 4 days, and from 5 days you can say up to 8 days variation, okay? From 8 days to 21 days, it is moderately regular. Still you are calling it regular, because in the life of female you can have much variation really, okay? And if it is more than 21 days or 21 days, then it is known as the khalas, irregular now, okay? So before calling anything irregular, you have to be very careful really, okay? What is the shortest and the longest cycle duration? You got the point? Okay. This is the first thing about the length of tool of the cycle. What are the different types of cycle geographically? Now you can imagine how much variable the cycle will be in the different females, and even in the same female, when she's 12 years old, when she's 13, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50 years, cycle can vary, okay? There will be variations. You have to keep these variations in mind, and still you will call the woman as a normal woman having a regular cycle. You got it? Okay, that's one thing. If in the same woman, the average of the cycle, she's having 28, 28, 28, 39, 31, 32, 34, 35, 28, 28, 29, 29, 28, 35, 36, 38, 29, 28, 28, 28, 28, and you calculate the average, and your average still comes to be around 28. This is the most common average which is coming. This is how you take the average of the cycles actually. You got that? Okay. And then you take the average of the population, that most of the women, how do you get the gathered average you take, okay? Average of the same person and the average of the population, that is giving you the idea that now in most parts of the world, most women, the average which is coming from the community is around 28 days takriban, okay? But 28 does not mean that every cycle is 28 days. Please keep it in mind. Okay. Now, according to the phases of the cycle, now please very quickly, you are dividing the cycle into ovarian cycle. First of all, how many phases did you divide it into? Just two. Just two. The dividing line was khalas, okay. Now you come to the uterine cycle. The total time is just the same, but now you are dividing this into 3 phases, please. It's not the 2 phases. Have a look at the diagram, please. Have a look at the diagram quickly. See, 3 phases, the bottom part of the diagram, and look at it. 3 phases are there. Do you see that? Okay. The first phase and the second phase and the third phase. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You call it like that. Okay. How is it beginning? Phase. Which is the first phase of the cycle? Look at the diagram. Identify. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, sometimes we have an impression or we have an understanding that maybe the cycle is starting from the proliferative follicular phase, it goes on, and then bleeding starts at the end, akhir. No. Bleeding is the first phase actually. The day when the woman starts bleeding, the very first day, if she is starting the bleeding today, this is the badaya of the cycle, the beginning of the cycle, okay? So the first day of the cycle is the menstrual phase, the first day of the menstrual phase. So first you will come across the menstrual phase. After that, this phase is over, destruction is done. Now you will have reconstruction. You will again start building up, and you will develop the stroma and the parenchyma, the glands, blood vessels, everything, and you will make up again. You will make the imara again actually, okay? And then final phase comes when you have the secretions and the maximum thickness of the endometrium develops, and that phase, the last phase, is the secretory phase. Now let us name the phases. If you are matching this with the ovarian cycle, then your 2 phases of the uterine cycle are coming before ovulation. Qabla ovulation, how many phases are coming? 2. Number 1, the first phase is menstrual phase, destruction, and then the second phase is construction phase, and that is the proliferative phase, okay? Now, logically speaking, it's very easy. Menstrual phase, what do you think about menstrual phase? What will be the cause of menstruation? What will be the phase? Match it with the hormones. What has happened? Oh yeah, the lowest level of the progesterone and estrogen, okay, because the corpus luteum is khalas, okay, they have touched the lowest level. So it means you have removed the hormones, the progesterone and the estrogen, mainly the progesterone and supported by the estrogen. They were supporting the endometrium. You have removed those hormones from the blood. Why you have removed? Because there is no corpus luteum mojood now. No corpus luteum, no hormone. No hormone means no support of the uterus. When there is no support of the uterus, like this, okay, it starts deflating, damage starts, and that continues for few days. This phase is known as and it's a bleeding phase. Do you agree with me? If it's a bleeding phase, it is due to the withdrawal of the hormones, isn't it? You are withdrawing the hormones, and this type of bleeding is known as withdrawal bleeding. If I say, what is the meaning of the withdrawal bleeding? Oh, you will say, come on, you are talking about the withdrawal of the hormones. I have removed the hormones from the blood, so khalas, it has to finish. You got that? So the removal of the progesterone and estrogen from the blood and lack of support of the endometrium now will cause, because endometrium was supported and maintained by two hormones, progesterone and estrogen, both were working collaboratively together like this, okay? You have removed both hormones, my dear. You can't do anything now, okay? You have to wait for the bleeding. This bleeding continues, and at the same time, look at the bleeding area or the graph. See that? Destruction is going on. The size of your very good endometrium, the thick wall, it's so like this, okay, collapse, it's going really, and you are left with only a little portion, the basal portion or the stratum basale of the endometrium, histologically, a little portion. This is the foundation mojood, the base is mojood. Again on this base, you will start putting, and you will start building Amara again in the next phase, and that phase is proliferative phase. Now you tell me, in the proliferative phase, who is going to build all this? Okay, because look at, this is coming before ovulation. Which is the hormone mojood before ovulation? Khalas. So very simple link, okay. So this phase is also called the estrogenic phase, okay. It's the pre-ovulatory part. You are having the proliferation, and that is controlled by hormone. According to histology, you will call it proliferative phase, isn't it? And according to the hormone or endocrine term, you will call it estrogenic phase, isn't it? Before that, menstrual phase, you will call, according to histology, you will call it destructive phase, because there is destruction of everything. And according to the hormone, you will call it withdrawal phase, isn't it? Okay, great. Are you getting it? All right. Okay. Destruction is going on. You know, this phase, menstrual phase, when you are towards the end of the menstrual phase, destruction is done. The new epithelium has started, because estrogen starts working from the menstrual phase. It is not waiting for the proliferative phase. It starts slow work. So re-epithelialization in a single wahid layer of epithelium, okay, has almost laid down again. These tiles, I'll put these tiles again, one tile only, okay, on the floor during the menstrual phase. And when I will enter into the proliferative phase, I will build more things over this one, multiple layers. But epithelium formation is done, not even started. It is takriban single layer is finished completely. The whole endometrium is covered with epithelium even at the end of the menstrual phase. You got it? Okay. So it means estrogen starts after the proliferative phase or during the proliferative or during the menstrual phase. Okay. So it is not after the menstrual phase, it is not during the proliferative phase. I am talking about the beginning of the work. The beginning starts in the menstrual phase, you know, because hormones start coming, it appears. That's very interesting. Okay. All right. Why have we lost the connection? It's there. It's there. Okay, thank you, Abdullah. Thank you very much. All right, Shabab. Let's get back to work. So you are getting the point. Okay. What is happening in the menstrual phase? What is the cause of destruction? Well, loss of support of the hormones. Okay. When there is loss of support of hormones, the secretions decrease and the mucosa, the whole thing starts getting deflated and compressed. The glands lose their secretion. The vasoconstriction happens because of the ischemia. Vasoconstriction happens because of some prostaglandin formation. It is PGF2 alpha, prostaglandin F2 alpha, that causes constriction. Due to constriction, there will be ischemia. Due to ischemia, there will be necrosis. At the same time, there is a formation of another prostaglandin after PGF2. It's PGI2. Okay, that's a vasodilator. So the story is confusing. First, you will have vasoconstriction, and once the damage has done, then you have vasodilation by PGI2. Yeah. So if you have damaged capillaries, damaged areas, and again now you increase the blood flow in that area, what will happen? Oh, now increased blood, bleeding will start, and the damaged portions will start flowing. The flood will come, and the menstruation begins like this. Okay. So it's a sequential changes which are coming. First, there is a formation of chemical compounds producing vasoconstrictors like PGF2 and some others, and it is followed by, now it changes to vasodilation then, okay, by new compounds which are other prostaglandins and vasodilators. They are working on it and they cause dilation. Bleeding starts on the first day of the menstrual phase. This phase is variable. It can stay from 2 days up to 7 days. Okay, in some women it is 2 days, in some women normally it is 3 days, 5 days, average is usually 5 days, but it's not lazim. From 2 days to 5 days is normal, okay, 7 days, 5 days is the average. If it is more than 2 days to 7 days, if normal, you are going more than 8 days or more, then you will say, oh, this menstrual period has prolonged really and it is abnormal now. Okay. So look at the duration from 2 to 7 days, all right, no problem. Now in these 2, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever the time is, please, okay, first of all damage starts, and there is some damage which is starting. All the mucosa is not starting at the same time equally, okay. Some areas develop here, some areas develop here on the first day, and a little bleeding starts, and then more areas will appear on the next day. On the third day, more areas will appear and they will fuse with each other, and a large amount of bleeding will occur. So initially it begins with the spotting and slight bleeding, then the bleeding increases on the second day or the third day. It's variable in different women. Okay, this bleeding pattern is very variable. Okay, don't take anything as a single presentation. In some females, there is a very little blood which is released over 3 or 4 days. In some women, right from the first day, it's a large amount of the blood, second day large amount of the blood, and third day then it decreases, and fourth day. Some women, they have only spotting for few days, a little, very little amount. It's hardly a blood which is significant, and still it is their pattern, normal. Okay. Average quantity is about 35-40 ml of the bleeding over 3, 4, 5 days. Total amount of blood which is going out is takriban 35-40 ml bas. Okay, if this is more than 80 ml in 5, 6, 7 days, then you will call it, oh, that's abnormally increased. So what is your HUD? 80 ml. Okay, anything less than 80 is okay. Okay, usually it is 35-40 takriban in most of the women, but your HUD is 80. If you are crossing that limit, you say, now this is something becoming abnormal. Okay, so amount of blood. This blood, menstrual blood, is mainly the arterial blood because of the damage of the arteries, ischemia and damage. Okay, it's about 75 to 80% arterial blood, and 20% is coming from the venous blood. Okay, so this blood is arterial and venous mixed, 80-20 or 75-25, like this. You got my point? This, yeah, the menstrual blood which comes, okay, it is takriban nus blood mixed with secretions and mucus and the cells and the damaged tissue. It's like this. So it is a thick type of blood. This blood, the quantity is takriban 35-40 ml in most of the women. Maximum quantity should be 80 ml. Then its characteristics, it is arterial in nature mainly. About 75 to 80% the source is arterial, 20 to 25% it is venous blood. This blood, normal blood, if you put it outside, does that blood clot or no? Yes. This blood usually does not clot easily, okay? Because in that blood you have some fibrinolytic substances, anticoagulant-like substances which can clot. The clotting occurs, but then there's lysis of the clots, so then you don't see the clotting or the clot portions. In some abnormal cases, when there is a large amount of bleeding, more than 80 ml, kathir amount of blood is coming very quickly, then you will see big clot-like pieces, liver-like pieces, or the clots are coming, because now it is overcoming the anticoagulant. Okay, but otherwise, normal bleeding on daily basis, when it is little, it is a thick blood coming, but it is not really clotted blood. Okay, why? Because there are some substances which can break down or lyse the clots. Okay, yeah, all right. So after coagulation, okay, there is mixing of the plasmin-like substances, and this plasmin can chop and break it. Okay, so once the blood comes out, if you see the blood, that is not having the clot portions or semi-solid portions usually. Okay, it's like this. Yeah. Oligomenorrhea. Okay, all right.
There's amount that this is the normal.
Okay, well, okay, let us hold these terms. Okay, we are having some terms. One is eumenorrhea, okay, normal bleeding, okay. Then there is a term known as polymenorrhea. Then there is a term known as menorrhagia. Menorrhagia. Then there is a term known as oligomenorrhea on the other side, okay. Then there is a term known as metrorrhagia, and then there is a term known as metromenorrhagia. Okay, there are many terms. Don't go into the terms right now. It's very interesting, very conceptual. Let us stay with the normal. We'll come up to the terms. Okay, we have a lecture for all these terms. I deliberately am not going into these details right now, but it's good that you are raising the questions. Keep all these terms in mind, and you will find all the answers inshallah very quickly. Okay, what is the meaning of polymenorrhea, menorrhagia, okay, oligomenorrhea, and menorrhagia, menorrhagia, and metrorrhagia, like this. These are the terms that you will come and find the definite answers. Dysmenorrhea is another term. That is okay, that is easy. Okay, these are all the abnormalities when you have irregularities. You know the meaning of the irregular now. Okay, all right. Okay, I'll come back inshallah. So menstrual phase is done. You know the reason, physiology of it, histologically what happens, okay, what type of blood is coming, what are the characteristics of that blood, volume of that blood, and everything. Okay, this menstrual phase, the duration I have given you, what is the range of this phase from 2 days to 7 days. Usually 5 days common, 3 to 5 days is more common actually. 2 days is the lowest time, 7 days should be the maximum normal time. From 8 days and more, you say, la, this is bad, this is something abnormal you are starting. Okay? Yeah? Phases. The first phase is called the menstrual phase. The second phase is called the proliferative phase. These two phases are coming before ovulation. After ovulation, you have Wahid phase, which is Baqi, and that's the secretory phase actually. Okay? This is done by progesterone. So it's progesteronic phase. Okay? This phase is done by the estrogen. It is the estrogenic phase or the proliferative phase, and this phase is the withdrawal phase of both progesterone and estrogen. Okay? Got it? Okay. Now, coming to the proliferative phase, it's very easy. Now you are developing the stroma and the glands. They are developing and they are becoming few millimeters thick, 5-6 millimeters thick. Okay, everything is formed. Glands are mawjood, complete formation occurs. But the secretions are not maximum. Glands do not secrete maximally. There is some secretion started. The blood vessels are not very tightly packed or coiled right now. You go to the next phase, which is progesterone. Okay, after ovulation. Secretions. Now progesterone is coming. It is filling the glands. It is increasing the blood flow. It is making the glands very much coiled and the arteries tortuous and very wavy arteries and compact arteries, so that everything becomes heavy and tight, tightly packed, full of secretions, full of nutrition, full of materials, glands are at their maximum, blood vessels are at their maximum, secretions are coming on the surface, okay, and some secretions are موجود over the surface of the mucosa, and these secretions appear like light milk colored. If you have milk, halib, and if you add some water in the halib, it becomes very light, okay, and then you pour it over the surface, you will have a light white color which is coming, okay, not the pure white color but slight color. This kind of white color is موجود in the form of secretion when progesteronic phase is at its maximum. This is called the uterine milk. What do you call it? Uterine milk. This milk is waiting for the fertilized ovum to come, for the istiqbal of the fertilized ovum, really, okay, because now your endometrium in the female is ready. If fertilization has happened and if it comes, everything can be done and it is possible to receive it. This is all done for the reception, for the istiqbal of the ovum, in just in anticipation. There is a khayal that it will come, really. Every month uterus is waiting for the fertilized ovum to come. It does not come every month, you know, but it is waiting. It is the duty of the uterus to wait every month, to prepare itself again and again and again and again, like this, okay. So this is the situation which is happening in these phases. Histological changes are maktoob. You can see what changes are coming in the glands and everything. It is written, okay. The idea is to just compare the phases, hormones which are doing the phase, duration of the phase, which phase is before ovulation, or which phases are before ovulation and which phases after ovulation, okay. Now let us take the example of a 28-day cycle, okay. What is the point of ovulation? Day 14, nus, 50% before and 50% baad, isn't it? Okay. Now in that 14 days before that, you have two areas or two phases. Menstrual phase, now it's variable, really. Some females have it for 3 days and the remaining part is for like the proliferation. Some will have it for 5 days and the remaining part is for proliferation. Some will have it for 6 days or 7 days and the remaining part is for. It means if one phase is becoming more, the other phase will become, definitely they are dependent on each other, okay. So they are variable, basically. They change and they are different in different women. It depends on the menstrual phase and the remaining part is for, like this, in an average 28-day cycle, like this, okay. The second half, now you're going after ovulation. What is that phase known as? The secretory phase, progesteronic phase or the secretory phase, all right, because of progesterone. That phase is a very stable phase, okay. It tries to remain same in the female. For example, if a female, now I'll give you another example. A female is having a regular cycle, 28-day cycle. She's having a very regular cycle. What do I mean by that? Less than, between 4 and 8, really, not even less than 4, okay. She will have 28, 28, 29, 30, 28, 29, 30, 32, 34, 29, 28, 29, 33, 35, like this, and you'll say somewhere between 4 and 8 the variation is coming, isn't it? Okay. One cycle is 28 days, okay. What is the length of the secretory phase? 14 days. Now her next cycle is 30 days. What do you think will be the length of the phases? When will ovulation occur?
16.
Okay, now that's interesting, okay. One concept is you divide the cycle into two parts, exactly, nus, and 15 before and 15 after. Distribute two phases in the 15 and this will become 15. And Amir is saying that 16 days, for which phase, Amir? Okay, so which phase will be 16 days? Two phases. Pre-ovulatory time will be 16 days and the post-ovulatory time will be 14 days. Perfect answer. It will be like this. So which phase is maintained or which is stable? The secretory phase. If a woman has a secretory phase of 14 days, some women have 15 days of secretory phase, it will remain 15 taqriban in them, even if their cycle is changing. Which phase will remain or try to remain constant? The post-ovulatory or the secretory phase. Which phases will be changing if the cycle is changing? The first two phases will be changing. Did you get the point? Now the same woman will have a cycle of 32 days. Okay, changes, come on. So, What will be the time approximately of, what is the expected time of ovulation? 18th day will be ovulation, and 14 days baad, extra days, that is for